Okay, everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Headlines, where me and my co host Steve go through whatever's happening in the news and try to make sense of it in the market. Going to be honest right off the bat here. A little bit of a slow news week, but that's okay. You know, they happen. But we found a couple articles that I think are interesting from either a macro type of news event or even maybe some individual trade ideas going in through there as well. So, yeah, we're gonna hop into it here. We're gonna show off what's talking about in the market. But as always, Steve, so far, how's your week? I always every time I say that now, Steve, just FYI, I go to URA, which is uranium ETF, just to see if there's been any
Yeah.
big moves this week.
Um, my week's been good. Trading wise, I've been trading around just like what we talked about last week. Those those nano nuke names and the full nuke names. The
Hmm.
headlines just keep coming out. We're not going to belabor that because we spent a lot of time last week talking about it. But it seems the story is out. Actually, there was a new piece. Apparently, Google's ex CEO Schmidt, Eric Schmidt, I think is his name. Can't recall it. It doesn't matter. But he was talking off the cuff and he didn't know he was being recorded, and he was literally spilling the beans on how expensive this AI rollout is going to be, hundreds and
Wow.
hundreds of billions of dollars. And this first round with OpenAI at 300 billion, I think, is just the beginning. But he did say the biggest concern was energy. How are we
Hmm.
going to fund? How are we going to fuel? How are we going to how are we going to run these giant data centers that are coming online in the next few years? So that just remains a big story for me. Trading wise, yeah, I've just been trading around those names. I sell them as they go to highs. I try to buy them on pullbacks. And for the most part, that kind of worked for me this week.
I heard I listened to a podcast uh, last week or earlier this week, and I heard a number 3 trillion that was expected in just
Mm-hmm.
capital expenditure over the next handful of years
Mm-hmm.
to get AI to the speed and the pace that they want, and that's just insane. Now I'm sure that covered the hardware, the facilities, but then also, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the energy. They're like 3 trillion. That's crazy. That's the largest company on the world is worth $3 trillion, and they're going to spend just that in just getting these things up and running, and then that doesn't even include servicing them, right? So soon, it's going to be, yeah, going forward. So big deal, right? But speaking of energy, talking about energy, nuclear obviously is going to be the way to go, the way to power something this intense. But we did have some energy news this week, and that came from two news sources. So one is the U.S. announced that it's now exporting more oil than all of Europe, which I guess they've been oil independent for a while now, well, a net exporter for a number of years, but now they're saying they're doing a little more than Europe. That to me would almost be bearish on the oil side. But then we also have what's going on in the Middle East with Israel and Iran, you know, fighting, spitting back and forth so far, and we had an 8.5% increase in crude just over a number of days here. So I'm just using USO as the proxy. Right? You could look at futures or whatever you want for just the individual oil price. And I gotta say, when I saw that headline, I expected more, but oil's just been a nightmare to trade here for a number of years. Because going back to 2022 here, just been range bound. Do you see anything here? I don't know if there's anything to
I see
do
the.
with.
You said it. You said it. We're range bound. We got the buy tag there on the wave.
Mm,
We're at the bottom end of that weekly, that's a daily range.
yeah,
Yeah, I heard 8-10%. That's a big run for oil. But when you have the headlines like we do over in the Middle East, that seems to be what happens. So in the meantime, we just have to watch the price action and try not to get spun around by headlines. And more importantly, what you think the headlines mean. That's even worse.
yeah, because the moment, as an experienced trader, the moment I think I looked at the weekly chart, the moment I brought up the weekly chart here on oil, right? This goes back to 2020. We're basically right here. So oil just hasn't done anything since 4 years now of just range bound action. So when I see that, it's the same. When I was on Trader TV this morning, they asked me about Bitcoin. It was the same kind of answer that I gave them. I said, when you're chopping around like this, that crypto's been doing for months now, it looks like oil has been doing for years now. You just gotta ignore all the headlines that come out, maybe set an alert, say, hey, if it gets above this high at 83, I'm gonna start watching it or something like that. But yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot to do here. So Range bound on oil. What's not looking like it's going to be range bound, however, I lost the article. I had it here. Spirit Airlines, there it is. So Spirit Airlines, I've never taken a Spirit Airlines
Oof,
at all.
you're missing out.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's the Carnival Cruise Line of the air. It's the budget. You
Uh,
get an interesting crowd, and the crazy thing about it is I hate their business model. Anybody that's ever done it, he's like $39 round trip, great, and then you got a $50 bag fee, and then you got a $50 upgrade fee, and then before you
yeah.
know it, you're right back where everybody else was, and you've gone through this bullshit sales upsell. It's really annoying. So I'm one who's not, uh, you know, too happy to see them go, too pleased or
Yeah.
displeased.
So yeah, they're exploring the possibility of bankruptcy. Now, bankruptcy in airlines is not a new thing at all. And it seems like every few years, some airline does some sort of restructuring or bankruptcy or anything like that. That's Spirit Aerosystems, not Spirit Airlines. Those are
Oil
two
is not
different
helping
things.
them either.
Say,
That's for sure. We can
yeah,
throw that in there.
yeah. Just look at this chart. So, you know,
Broken.
I it's the same as I remember the whole Bed Bath and Beyond crowd, where the company was coming out and saying, "Listen, guys, things aren't going well. We're going to look for bankruptcy," and there was a whole crowd of people that were looking to buy that dip in hopes that it would turn around. And I just look at this chart, just bleeding to new lows, down another 25% today, and just there's nothing I can say here. Just stay away. My question, and I think the interesting thing would be to look at the competitors, right? Could something like a Spirit, you see United Airlines making a nice move up here over the past couple weeks, and even today gapping up. I wonder if this would be the play if somebody was more interested in making some money off Spirit going bankrupt. I don't think you can short that chart that we just showed that's hitting new all-time lows right now. I don't think you can buy it either, but maybe we can take a look at some of these other
Maybe
ETFs and see if something's moving
maybe
on.
LUV, maybe Southwest Airlines buys some of their assets, and that kind of helps their fleet. It's not
That's
the first airline you showed me. I think it was Delta or UAL. It was extremely extended. Now,
yeah.
Love to me looks a little bit more interesting. It's a very prolonged base, and it's just beginning to come out of that base. So, what could be bad news for Spirit, could help some of these others.
Yeah, and then there's DAL, which is Delta, so not so much news. And then, as always, as I become more of a boomer and I'm more interested in the ETFs, these Jets ETF is a very interesting one. So this is just what it sounds, just all of the different airline producers kind of put together and seeing what that's doing. And it's been a nice trend actually for a long time here. For an asset on you look at the monthly chart and a picture view, hasn't done anything forever, right? This was the 2020 sell off, and then it's just kind of been chopping by ever since. A little bit of move here. All right. Well, last but not least, just something to look at real quick is just I want to grab just a shipper's, I think it's boat. So that we talked a little bit last week about how there was this strike that looked like it was going to happen. I guess it happened, but by the time we recorded this episode, the strike happened and then got resolved. So shortest strike in history. Looks like we're getting a gap down here on the shipping ETF and a move lower. It's the last kind of chart to look at, Steve. I don't know. Do you see anything here? It seems like it's range bound. That seems to be a theme today. That's what we'll title the episode. We're in a range bound market.
Yeah, that doesn't look good. It's looked a bit overextended, and I wouldn't touch this yeah, by any means. So it's broken for the moment.
Yeah. All right. Well, do we have anything positive? You mentioned gold and silver. Do we have anything to leave the people with? Because so far it's been nothing's happening. And
Yeah,
I just want to real quickly, um, right? Makes sense. If you look at the SPY, right, we broke out to new all time highs on the 19th of September, and we are exactly at that price. And not only that, if you look at these candles, right, there's really, other than a couple of them, there's no body to be seen. So there's some sort of a push down in the morning, and then it closes flat, and then it pushes down, and then it closes. So it doesn't surprise me that we're range bound in everything else because we're range bound in the S&P 500. So, um, yeah, they're just saying that, hey, it seems like news follows price. When price is interesting, news is also interesting. When price is boring, I think news is boring as well. But did you want to talk to the people about some precious metals?
Well, we did have the headline of the big half point rate cut, and that's just, it's been liquidity is being injected all over the world. China's doing it, Europe's doing it, so we're doing it too. Why not? And there's PSLV. It's looking a lot better than it was when I was looked at it 10 minutes ago.
Mm,
I actually thought about buying some and taking it into the weekend. The weekend is always an interesting play in silver. You can either be handsomely rewarded or you can be disgustingly cut off at the knees. And been cut off at the knees a few times, so I didn't play any silver. But technically speaking, it's got a lot of room to catch up to gold. The gold chart's been breaking away for a while now, but for whatever reason, silver's been held down. I'm very bullish in silver. In the ETF PSLV rather, not SLV.
hmm.
I say that because PSLV has an audited vault. SLV has paper. But the headline is half point rate cut. Markets are receiving liquidity in a generous mood. And that is one heck of a giant cup and handle possible breakout. This could be an
Yeah.
interesting weekend for silver. As you guys watch this on Sunday night, silver futures were open. If we close strong on Friday, I'd hate to be short silver over the weekend.
Yeah, I really like the look of this chart. You can see, I'm gonna watch this for the close today because, as you can see on the chart, and this is why I always generally make my personal trading decisions on the close. There's been a lot of times we've gone up to this 1085-ish area on silver and have gotten rejected back down. So if we stick the landing on this one, I think you might want to take a shot there. But Steve, you're right that you have to be careful when it comes to the weekend, especially with all the geopolitical news going on. I don't think silver quite has the flight to safety element that a gold does, but um, you know, doesn't seem like things are getting better anytime soon, so it might be a good thing to hold on anyway. Just know you're right. You can see these gaps, and these gaps are probably occurring on the weekends where you have, a massive move, you know, 5-10% sometimes on a precious metal can be insane. So just make sure you're sizing accordingly, right? If you're looking at something like this and you're going to hold it through the weekend, just know you could get a gap down. Silver's not going to go to zero, so you're not going to worry about anything like that. But you could get a gap down of 5%, 10% in your face, one way or the other. You just hope it's in your way, right? Well, all right, guys, a shorter episode today, but it is what it is. We follow the news. If the news is crazy, then we'll have a lot to talk about. In this case, it isn't. I think the news is going to continue to be boring until the SPY resolves one way or the other, and then I think that's when you're going to get a lot of this going on. Also, earnings season seems to be starting to gear back up again, so that might create some fun as well. But that's going to be it for this week. Again, if you've made it this long, make sure you're liking and retweeting and subscribing and all that kind of stuff. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
Right?